Good day. This is Mrs. Smith, and we are going to go over the study guide for your Chapter 5 test. Okay, Section 1 is going to be short answer. You want to estimate and then solve, show your work. All right, so our question here is 11 and 36 hundredths plus 5 and 26 hundredths. For our estimate, we can estimate here 11 and 36 hundredths, we can make 10 plus 5 and 26 hundredths, we can just make 5. When we add that together, we get 15. So we know that our answer when we're done should be approximately 15. Now again, when I estimate on this page, remember there are many different ways to estimate. So if you estimate it in a different way that is different than the way I did, don't worry about it. It could be correct, okay? There's lots of different methods for estimating. All right, so we're going to write 11 and 36 hundredths. I'm going to put my decimal down here and then write my numbers around it for my second add-in. 6 plus 6 is 12, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Bring down the decimal point. 5 plus 1 is 6. 1 plus 1 is 1. So our sum is 16.62. Question number 2. We're going to estimate. We have 69 and 58 hundredths minus 34 and 26 hundredths. I'm going to round this to the nearest whole number, which would be 70. And then I'm going to round this, and I'm going to round this to be, I'm going to make it 30, okay? And my estimate would be about 40. Now, this is not a very close estimate because I rounded to the tens place. So this would be not as accurate. So I'm not going to expect my answer to be super close to this number. All right, so we have 69.58 subtract 34.26. 8 take away 6 is 2. 5 take away 2 is 3. Bring down the decimal point. 9 take away 4 is 5. 6 take away 3 is 3. So my answer is 35 and 32 hundredths. All right, so I'm going to back up my camera here so you can see my work. Okay, so we have 7 minus 4 and 39 hundredths. So I'm going to estimate this just as 7 take away 4, which equals 3. Now, 7 has a hidden decimal point. If you do not see the decimal point, it's hidden, it's invisible, and it's just like a sentence. It's at the end of the number, so it would be right here, just like a period at the end of a sentence. So we have 7 with a decimal point. Then I'm going to put the decimal point underneath for my second number. And then I have 4, 3, 9. And this is a subtraction problem. Make sure you pay attention to the math symbols because you certainly don't want to add when it's a subtraction problem and subtract when it's an addition problem and get it wrong for that reason. All right, I have to add zeros as placeholders. I cannot have 0 and take away 9, so I need to borrow. I can't borrow from this number, so I need to go over here. The 7 becomes a 6. The 0 becomes a 10. I borrow from the 10, it becomes a 9, and this number becomes a 10. 10 take away 9 equals 1. 9 take away 3 equals 6. Bring down the decimal point. 6 take away 4 equals 2. So my answer is 2 and 61 hundredths. Question number 4. I have 12 and 20 hundredths minus 4 and 75 hundredths. I'm going to round 12 and 20 hundredths to just 12. Subtract 4 and 75 hundredths, I'm going to just round to 5. And that just equals 7. So now we're going to do the exact answer. I can't have 0 and take away 5, so I'm going to borrow, and this becomes a 1, and the 0 becomes a 10. 10 take away 5 is 5. I cannot have 1 and take away 7, so I have to borrow. This becomes a 1, and this becomes 11. 11 take away 7 equals 4. Bring down the 0. I cannot have 1 and take away 4, so I have to borrow, and that just goes away now. And I have 11. And 11 take away 4 is 7. So my answer is 7 and 45 hundredths. We're on page 2, question number 5. 51 and 28 hundredths plus 46 and 39 hundredths. We can round 51.28 to 50. And we can round this. I would just round it to 45 because these are easy numbers to work with. I don't know. That's how I would round it. So this would be 95. Again, if you wanted to round that, you could round this to 50. If you wanted to, you could make this 50 plus 50 equals 100. To me, that's too big of an estimation, but again, these are just ballpark numbers, okay, to give you an idea if your answer is reasonable or not. Okay, so now we're going to add these together. So we have 51.28 and 46.39. This is an addition problem. 8 plus 9 is 17, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. Bring down the decimal point. 6 plus 1 is 7. 5 plus 4 is 9. So our answer is 97 and 67 hundredths, which would be right between these two numbers. All right. Question number 6, which property is shown below? So we have 41 and 16 hundredths plus 10 equals 10 plus 41 and 16 hundredths. This is the commutative property. And the commutative property of addition, because we're adding, tells us that we can change the order. We can change the order of the addends. And we'll still get the same answer. Question number 7, which property is shown below? 64 plus 79, you would do that first, plus 48. Or you could do 79 plus 48, then add 64. So this is grouping, okay? So what property is the property that you can group the numbers together? And that would be the associative property of addition. And that's where you can group the addends. And remember, the addends are the numbers that you're adding together. Okay, for question number 8, we have explain the commutative property of addition and write an example. So for the commutative property of addition, changing the order of the addends does not change the sum. For example, 4 plus 3 equals 3 plus 4. It does not matter which way we add the numbers, they're both going to equal 7. So changing the order of the addends does not change the sum. Explain the associative property of addition and write an example. Changing the grouping of the addends does not change the sum. For example, we can add 4 plus 2, which gives us 6, and then add 3 to get 9, or we could add 2 plus 3 to get 5, then add 4 to get 9. So for the associative property, that's grouping. Explain the identity property for addition and write an example. Adding 0 to any number does not change the value of that number. So I could have 5 or 15 plus 0 equals 15. Solve, show your work. Question number 9. The amusement park sold $14,987.56 worth of tickets on Saturday. On Sunday, they sold $8,945.62 worth of tickets. How much were their total sales for the weekend? So I'm going to write here. Now I'm going to start all the way over there because this is a pretty large number. I'm going to bring down my decimal point. And boys and girls, make sure that you check your numbers, because when you have a large set of numbers, you want to make sure that they are the correct numbers after you do all that work. If you wrote down the wrong digit and get the wrong answer only because of a little mistake like that, you're going to be upset with yourself. Also, make sure your 9s look like 9s and your 4s look like 4s and your 7s look like 7s, because a lot of times I see kids write a 7 like that, and then a 9 like this, and a 4 like that, and they all look like relatively the same. So you make sure your handwriting is good, because again, you don't want to get an answer wrong simply because of handwriting. All right, 6 plus 2 is 8. 5 plus 6 is 11, carry the 1. Bring down the decimal point. 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19, carry the 1. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And we are at the decimal point. We can go over 3 spaces and add a comma. We're going to add a dollar sign because this is money. So we have $23,933.18. All right, next question. Peter and Benson each own pet snakes. Benson said his snake was larger, so they decided to measure them. Peter's snake was 18 12 inches long. Benson's snake was 21 51 of an inch long. How much longer was Benson's pet snake than Peter's? I'm going to fix this error here. How much? Okay, so this is how much longer. It means we're going to subtract. All right, so we're going to subtract. The larger number is 21 51. Take away 18 12. We cannot have 1 and take away 2. So we have to borrow, make this a 6, and this becomes 11. 11 take away 2 is 9. 6 take away 1 is 5. Bring down the decimal point. I have to borrow from the 2 and make it a 1, and this becomes 11. 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then 1 take away 1 is nothing. So we have 3 and 59 hundredths inches. Section 2, answer the questions below. Put these decimals in order from least to greatest. So when we compare decimals, it's helpful to write them vertically and remember to line up the decimal points. So I'm going to rewrite these vertically. The next thing we want to do is to make sure that we have the same number of decimal places in each number. And the reason why is this number says 6/10, and these numbers say hundredths. You really can't compare tenths with hundredths. So what you do is you add a 0 here, and instead of this being 6/10, now it's 60 hundredths. So this makes it much, much easier to compare. All right, well, we're first going to compare the whole numbers. And in this case, 45 is equal to 45, but 40 is less. So we can write 40 and 35 hundredths first because that's the least number. Now we are going to compare the next two numbers. Now I just want to go back to what their original numbers were, 45.6 and 45.42. Now you might have thought originally that this number was less because 6 is less than 42, okay? But remember, this was 6/10 and this is 42 hundredths. That's why we added this 0 here, because this is actually 60 hundredths and this is 42 hundredths. So this top number is larger. So our next number is 45 and 42 hundredths, followed by 45 and 60 hundredths. Now I'm going to just put 0.6 because that's what they gave us in our question. All right, next set. We have 152.16, 165.3, 165.21. All right, we're going to add that 0 here. I'm going to fill that 0 in just so I know that I put it there and it's not actually in the question. So our least is 152 because I'm just looking at the whole numbers right now. 152.16. And now I'm going to look at my numbers that match. And 165 and 21 hundredths is less than 165 and 30 hundredths. Now I'm not going to put that 0 there because it wasn't originally there. Now if you do put the 0 there, it's not really a problem. Okay, next. I'm trying to see where I can write this. I should have planned out my spacing a little bit better, but I'm going to slide it over there. Okay, we have 81.011, and 81.2. This is like our little challenge question. Remember, if a number does not have a decimal place or a decimal point, look at it like it's a sentence, and at the end of a sentence, you have a period. At the end of a number, you have a decimal point. Okay, now this number here has 3 decimal places, so I'm going to put 3 zeros here. And then down here, I'm going to have to add, now I'm going to fill these in just so I know I added them. And then here, I'm going to add 2. My whole numbers are all the same, 81, 81, 81. So I'm just going to compare the decimals. Well, here I have 0 thousandths, 11 thousandths, and 200 thousandths. Well, obviously this will be the least, then the second least, and then the largest. So they're actually in order. 81, 81.011, and then 81.2. Explain how you determined the order from least to greatest for question A. First, I lined up the decimals. Or the decimal numbers. I added a 0 to 45.6, so it would also read hundredths, like the other numbers. I first compared the whole numbers and saw that 40.35 was the least. Oops. Then for 45.60 and 45.42, I compared the decimal values and 0.42 is less than 0.60, so 45.42 is less than 45.60. For question B, find the difference between the greatest number and the least number. All right, so for question B, the greatest number was 165.3, and the least number was 152.16. Okay, so I just wrote those down. Now, when you subtract, remember you have to line up the decimal points. Now, in this case, I have to add a 0 as a placeholder. I can't have 0 and take away 6, so I have to borrow. This becomes a 2 and this becomes a 1. 10 take away 6 is 4. 2 take away 1 is 1. Bring down the decimal point. 5 take away 2 is 3. 6 take away 5 is 1. And 1 take away 1 is nothing. So our answer is 13.14. So explain how you solved this problem. All right. When we subtract, we must line up the decimal points. For 165.3, I added a 0 in the hundredths place. So I could subtract 152.16 because that number goes to, to the hundredths place. This problem required borrowing. All right. Section 3. Read each question, then fill in the correct answer. Question 12. At the pool snack stand, Vicki bought a Twizzler for $1.13, a miniature peppermint patty for 80 cents, a bag of miniature pretzels for $3.25, and a drink for $2.63. To the nearest dollar, about how much did Vicki spend in all? All right, so let's write down our prices here. So she spent $1.13. She spent 80 cents. $1.13, 80 cents, $3.25, and $2.63. And we're going to round these numbers to the nearest dollar. So the nearest dollar is basically the nearest whole number, which is basically the ones place. All right, so here's the ones place. So we look over here. This is a 1. That's going to keep this $1. Okay, this is the ones place. We look over here. It's an 8. That makes this $1. This is the ones place. We look over here. It's a 2. That keeps the 3 the same. $3. This is a 2. Oops, sorry, underlining it, keeping my pattern. Underline, we look over here. This is a 6. The 6 is 5 and above, gives us a shove. This becomes a 3. All right, so we have $1 plus $1 plus $3 plus $3, 6, 7, 8. We have $8. So the answer is about $8. Question 13. At the movies, Jackson spent $11.74 on a ticket, $5.88 on a drink, $7.23 on popcorn with extra butter, and $3.27 on a bag of Skittles. How much did he spend in all? All right, so we have, let's see here, 11.74, 5.88, 7.23, 3.27. Add all of these up. Okay, so this is 7, and 7 is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22. Okay, so this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, 1, 2, and I bring down my decimal point. So he spent $28.12. Question 14. Kelly jogged 5.4 miles during track practice. Samantha jogged 4.9 miles. How much farther did Kelly jog than Samantha? So how much farther, oops, little spelling error there, how much farther did Kelly jog than Samantha? This is a subtraction problem because we're trying to find the difference. So we're going to do 5.4 take away 4.9. And we're going to have to borrow because you can't have 4 and take away 9. So we borrow. This becomes a 4 and this becomes a 14. And 14 take away 9 is 5. Okay, so that's 0.5 miles, which is basically a half of a mile. All right, next question. Wesley's dad gave him $40 to go shopping. He went to the store and paid $32.87 for a pair of jeans. How much money does he have left over? So we have $40. And remember, this is a whole number, and if you don't see a decimal point, it's just like a sentence. At the end of a sentence, you have a period. At the end of a number, you have a decimal point. Now it's money, so for money, we have hundredths. Our decimal system for money goes to the hundredths place. We're going to subtract. Oh, look at this. Subtracting across zeros. That's what this is called. Such great time. I know you guys like to do this. So we can't have 0 and take away 7, so we have to borrow, but we can't borrow from this 0. We can't borrow from this 0, so we got to borrow from the 4. The 4 becomes a 3. This becomes a 10. Then the 10 becomes a 9, and this becomes a 10. And then this 10 becomes a 9, and then this 0 becomes a 10. 10 take away 7 is 3. 9 take away 8 is 1. Bring down the decimal point. 9 take away 2 is 7. And 3 take away 3 is nothing. So our answer is $7.13 he has left over. So maybe he can go to get something to eat. Or maybe he can get a pair of socks to go with his jeans. All right, so that is your test, or practice for your test, all right? Now, make sure that this is basically like exactly what your test is going to ask you. So make sure that you know what you're doing. If any of these problems cause you any issue, then you want to make sure that your parents go over it with you one more time, okay? Do not wait until the day of the test, okay? Remember, neat handwriting is the key to success as well. So I wish you good luck.